welcome back. I just finished week 1 of The Artist's Way, so I want to talk about it. There was a lot of stuff this week, and I feel a little like scattered, like not really sure honestly where to start. So week 1 was recovering a sense of safety, and the very first concept that this talked about was about shadow artists, which it says shadow artists are caught between the dream of action and the fear of failure. And they're like shadow artists are born. And so it's talking about people who have this desire to be artists, but who, because of like fear of failure or fear of, something, they end up not becoming artists, but oftentimes they'll sort of like adjacently pursue art as like a hobby, but not fully go into it. Or they'll like marry somebody who's like an artist and like really support somebody else's journey, but never really feel the support they need to pursue their own journey. And so that was something I definitely see in myself. And we talked a lot about where that fear comes from. And so a big portion of this week 1 exercises was in, there were like a bunch of different like exercises that we did, and a lot of it was in identifying our monsters. So yeah, I feel kind of scattered. I don't really know where to begin, but okay, maybe let me do the check-in first, because that way I have a little bit of structure. Okay, so let's go back to the beginning. So check-in, how many days this week did you do your morning pages? I did do my morning pages every day this week, which I'm proud of. It actually wasn't that hard for me to remember to do it, because like I really want to do this, and so I've been like, it's been feeling pretty easy to do the morning pages. I did notice that my morning pages the first few days were very like, all of them to some extent, but like especially the first few days were very kind of like scared and angry, just like I don't know what's going to happen. Like I found myself really just going into like the doubt part of my brain and just like writing out all my fears, all my doubts. Like, is this going to work? Like, what if this doesn't work? I'm gonna, be right back where I started. But then there were also some days where I found myself kind of more like listing out tasks, or thinking about like the monsters in my life, which we'll talk about, that I identified, and just feeling like this kind of like sense of grief almost for like where I am at right now, a little bit feeling sorry for myself if I'm honest. But then also through some of the exercises we've done, I have found more like empowerment, which is good. But anyway, so I did the morning pages every day. Did you do your artist date this week? Yes, I did do my artist date. I actually did it today, and my original idea for my artist date was like, I was really thinking about what I want to do, and I've never painted on a gigantic canvas. And so I went to Jerry's, like the art store here, and I got like giant like 48 by 36 canvas stretcher things, and then I like bought some canvas off of Amazon, but I'm actually still waiting for it to get here. So I haven't done that yet, but that's kind of like my plan for my next artist date, I guess. Like I've kind of been toying with the idea of like, I just honestly want to make, like, first of all, I want to be able to just like paint something like really huge, but I also have been toying with the idea of like, maybe I just like make it a giant mistake and like not force myself, but like just end up like messing it up or somehow intentionally, and like maybe that would be good for me. But anyway, so I didn't actually get to do that this week, but today I decided to kind of like because Isaac went home to work on his car today, so I was sort of just alone, and I decided to put on like a cute outfit and like do my hair like and just like put on something that really makes me feel like myself. And then I went to Michael's to try to find like some sort of little fun craft I could do. Like I kind of wanted to like bedazzle something, or I didn't end up finding anything there. So then I ended up just going to like an antique store, because like I really love my brass bracelet, which is like very dull right now. I need to polish it, but I was kind of wanting to find like some fun jewelry or something. So I like went there, and I noticed myself like on this like time with I got bubble tea for myself. Like I was having fun like in those moments, but then I also found myself like when I went to Michael's and I couldn't find the thing that I wanted to find. I was kind of like, ugh, like I feel like I'm failing this artist date, even though like there's literally no requirement. And then same thing, I went to this antique store, found some bracelets, tried to talk to a lady at the front desk. She made me feel weird, and then the whole situation, I just felt weird, and I was like, why am I here? Like I feel like she like didn't want to help me. Like it was just a weird experience. And then I didn't end up finding anything, and so I was kind of like stressing myself out, like, but I'm just like, I just want to have a good time. And so then, I don't know, I decided to just like order myself some food. And then I went over and shopped around at Light Years, because I was like, I'm not gonna let this bother me. I'm just gonna go somewhere else and like just browse and just like have fun, like window shopping and looking at the pretty little things. And I ended up finding like this bracelet that I really like, which it's like a labradorite, it has like labradorite and smoky quartz and stuff, and like some shell beads, which I thought were really pretty. And it like, I feel like it like matches my vibe. So that was fun. And then I got like a little fun little perfume oil, just like a patchouli one, because there's this one perfume oil at Lush that like I really love. It's the Karma scent, but it's so expensive, so I've never purchased it. But they had some like rollerball perfume oils, and so I just got a patchouli one because it smells like similar-ish. Like I feel like deep down I just want to smell and be this like dirty hippie. But I'm like not a dirty hippie in my like corporate job. But anyway, so that was fun. I'll show you my outfit. I have these like pants that are like green, and then my little like denim vest, which like took me forever to find like one that I actually like, that like I feel like suits me, but I love it. And I actually went to Michael's to try to find like a hook and loop closure so I could fix this because it broke, and I couldn't find one, but whatever. I'll do that a different day. But I just felt fun. It was fun to like shop around, and just like, I don't know, oogle at all the little fun things. Oh, and then, there was also at the antique shop, there was like this cute little tiny mini kalimba. And so I just like sat and like played with it for a minute, but I thought about buying it, but then I was like, no, I'll just leave it there for somebody else who wants it. But it kind of felt like a fun little, like when I was feeling bad and then I found it, I was like, oh, the universe does love me. But anyway, so that was my artist date. And then, okay, so let me go back to a little bit more of like what we were talking about this week. So that was my artist date. We talked about shadow artists. Okay, so here's an excerpt about shadow artists that I found kind of impactful. So it's, hey Peanut. It says, as a rule of thumb, shadow artists judge themselves harshly, beating themselves for years over the fact that they have not acted on their dreams. This cruelty only reinforces their status as shadow artists. Remember, it takes nurturing to make an artist. Shadow artists did not receive sufficient nurturing. They blame themselves for not acting fearlessly anyhow. And then it says, in order to move from the realm of shadows into the light of creativity, shadow artists must learn to take themselves seriously. With gentle, deliberate effort, they must nurture their artist child. Creativity is play, but for shadow artists, learning to allow themselves to play can be hard work. And then it talked a lot about protecting the artist child within, and it says, remember your artist is a child, find and protect that child. And then it also said, in recovering from our creative blocks, it is necessary to go gently and slowly. Which, all of that really made me think about the work I've done with Danielle and how she talks about being fiercely sweet with your younger self, with your inner child. And it, like, I definitely find myself sometimes in this loop where I am judging myself for not pursuing my dreams, which really only, it just continually like reinforces this identity that I will never pursue my dreams. But I feel like, I don't know, I think in my head I definitely tend to idealize these people who kind of make big moves in their life, like people who just make a decision and move across the country, or just like do something more drastic and like crazy. It's not crazy to follow your heart, but I think in my own mind, like with my specific upbringing and like the things I've gone through, it's been very, very difficult for me, I've found, to take gigantic leaps like that. And so what it was saying about like the gentle, deliberate effort and going gently and slowly, that really resonated with me. And even in the work I've done with Reagan, trying to like heal my fear of being seen and getting more comfortable dancing around her and with her, that has been an extremely slow process. But Reagan's always reminded me throughout the whole process that like your nervous system is an animal, and it like is it's very ancient, and it has wisdom, and your body too, like no part of us really wants to, unless we feel safe, you know, take some big drastic change. Maybe some people are able to get themselves to do that, but that doesn't necessarily like work, I feel like, for everybody. And our nervous system prefers slow, gradual change, and slow, gradual change also helps build consistent patterns and habits, which I feel like, yeah, it just made sense to me and spoke to me. And the whole like being fiercely sweet with my inner child, and even, you know, on my artist date today, when I started to feel like I was failing my artist date, or like I'm not completing my artist date if I don't find a craft that I like at Michael's, or if I don't find this thing, if I can't do this one specific thing, then I'm failing. That's not true. It's not true. Like, I just have to follow whatever my inner child wants to do. And at first I was beating myself up for not doing the thing I originally wanted to do, you know, but then I just took a second and then kind of like recalibrated and said, okay, that's okay. Like, it's okay. It's okay. I didn't find something I wanted to do a craft with at Michael's. It's okay. Like, I'm not even obligated or forced to do that thing. Like, I can do literally anything. So then I was like, I'm gonna go look for jewelry, and just like look around and like that. And then I looked for jewelry and and then felt like a failure for not finding a piece of jewelry that I liked. And I even remember standing in the antique store looking at a few like rings. I was like, oh, like, should I get one of these rings? And I just kept looking at them, and I was like, like I could tell like when I like something, I will like it right away and like really like it. But if I'm like kind of on the fence about something, I'll be like convincing myself to like it in my head, and then I'll just dwell on it and like stay there and look at it again and again, and like just like not be able to make a decision. That to me, like, I need to recognize, I have recognized, it's just hard in the moment, but like I recognize more and more that when, you know, that convincing myself weird territory is not actually a yes for me and my body. Like, for me, a yes is like, ooh, I really like that. Like, it's an immediate thing. And if there's any sort of hesitation or weirdness, it's a no, is what I've found. Or like some, you know, even with clothes, like sometimes I'll find I try to buy something and then convince myself that I like it and try to wear it, but then not really like it. And then it just lays in the back of my closet. So same. Honestly, I don't remember why I started talking about that. And next. So, okay. So one of the things we did was identify our enemy within. So those things that are doubting you, those monsters that are, you know, telling you that you're never going to be able to pursue your dreams. So we did some work to identify our core negative beliefs. And then one of the activities was, or part of week 1 was to take those negative beliefs and turn them into positive alternates. And so the way that we did this was to actually use affirmations. So it didn't matter what the affirmation was. It was basically just like, let me pull up my affirmations. So I've got them here. So it was affirmations and blurts. So basically we would write down an affirmation, it doesn't matter what it is, and then just take note of any blurts that come out. So the blurts are like the negative things that your brain tries to scream or yell or interject in response to the positive thing. So we listed out all of our blurts, and then those blurts kind of tell us about what our internal negative core beliefs or wounds might be. So for instance, the first one I wrote was, I am abundantly creative and have every ability to do whatever I want and be successful at it. And then one of the blurts that came out was, you'll never find what you truly want to do, among a lot of other ones. There was also, you're not passionate enough about anything to decide. And then I also did another set of affirmations where I said, I am a brilliant and prolific painter. And then one of my blurts that came out was, your art scares people and people are going to think you're disturbed and think something's wrong with you if you make the art that you truly want to make. And then I also had, I am a sexy, confident, strong dancer, and I love for people to watch me perform. I feed off the energy of the crowd. And then one of my blurts that came out was, you're cringy. You're not as good as you think you are. Actually, everybody's laughing at you. And I had a lot of other ones. The other blurts that I starred as like the big ones for me was, you're not special or confident enough to be successful. You're not the type of person who goes center stage. You're more of a background guy. And stop being a child. And so I had so many blurts though, but those were like the big ones that stuck out to me. And so that felt like the most potent. And so based off of those ones that I starred, the task was then to create affirmations for yourself that you can review like every day that are essentially the opposite of those blurts, or that like address them. So for me, the first one, and then they also provided some like suggested affirmations in the book, which there was one that I really liked. And it was, as I create and listen, I will be led. So I chose to make that one of my own affirmations. And then I also made one that says, I have clear inner direction and create passionately and audaciously from my authentic soul experience. And then I also have, I curiously explore and accept all forms of expression that excite my inner child and inner creative. And I am valuable. My voice is strong and my full expression is worthy of center stage. And then I decided to just like write out my affirmations here, and then I like taped them to my mirror in there. And I also have one sitting next to my work computer so that like this week I can like look at it while I work. And then also I did these ones so that I can like keep them in the book. And then it says like every morning to like do your morning pages and then read these affirmations afterwards. So that's what I've been doing for that. So that was kind of one of the bigger activities we did this week. And then the other activities, so they had a bunch of activities, and another thing that like, so I started to get, when I first saw this, I started to get overwhelmed because I was like, this is a lot. Like, I feel like this is like too many. Like I was feeling like, when am I gonna have time for this? Or the like emotional energy to do this. And so I was getting very overwhelmed, but then Isaac reminded me that like, I don't have to do any of this. And then I also forgot that like earlier in the course, they said, do half of the exercises and pick half of ones that you do really want to do, and then the other half ones you really don't want to do, and then just do those. And also, like, none of this has to be perfect, but I think in my head I have this like perfectionism that like I'm like I need to do everything, and if I don't do everything exactly right, it's not gonna work, which is just like, again, I think just like a perfectionism thing from like my younger self, who felt like in order to be good I have to do things the right way. This is not, but actually a big part of what I need to learn is that there is no right way and like I can just do whatever speaks to me and whatever I want to do. So anyways, so the other things it had us to do, one of them was to time travel and list out old enemies of your creative self-worth. These are your monsters, and your historic monsters are the building blocks of your core negative beliefs. This is your Monster Hall of Fame. So, and it says it's necessary to acknowledge creative injuries and grieve them, otherwise they will become creative scar tissue and block your growth. So after I did that whole affirmation exercise, I did the monster exercise and kind of like went through my whole life, and it suggested to do it in like 5-year increments. So like from 0 to 5, I thought about who were my monsters in that time. And I honestly, like, there's so many. So I guess I don't have to like, talk about them all. Otherwise this is going to be like a really long video, but like, honestly, who cares? Like, maybe it doesn't matter. But from 0 to 5, I guess I'll share about this one incident. But I remember I don't know exactly how old I was, but I was signed up for ballet. Like, my parents had me in ballet, and I remember it came time for the rehearsal, and I remember putting on like the whole like pink tutu dress and everything, and I remember my mom helping me get ready, and then we drove there, and I remember being so scared to like go on stage that like I just couldn't bring myself to go on stage and like actually dance or perform in front of everybody. But like in that moment, yeah, so my parents, they got like very upset at me, and then they essentially like drove me home, but like instead of like comforting me, they like I just remember getting home and like hiding under my bed, because like I think they told me that like they were gonna bring me home and like spank me or something. And so I just remember getting home and like hiding under my bed, like freaking out and crying, because I knew like my parents were gonna come into my room and spank me, which they did. But and that's not like necessarily like a monster in the sense of like art, but like it is a monster in the sense of like that is a monster that lives in my brain that like blocks my full expression. And so I felt like that was one that I had to like mention, just because it's like the earliest memory I have where like I was afraid to do something and then like got punished for like not doing it. And so I think ever since then, like that's the number one incident I've been able to pinpoint where like I think my brain just learned that like it's not safe to be in like to try to even perform, because if you fail, like you're going to get hurt. And so like the entire rest of my life, like I just definitely relegated myself to like the background. And like even with my little sister, like she was always the center of attention, like performer, like fun child, and like we would play and pretend and stuff, and she would always be the performer, and I would literally be like her little manager with like writing things down. And anyways, that's like one big monster I had. From 5 to 10, some other monsters were still like definitely my parents like telling me that art wasn't realistic. Like when they start asking you about what you want to do in school, and like art was always my favorite subject. Just having it was just weird because when you're young, like your parents will encourage you, I feel like, and be like, oh, your art is so good. But then when you get a little older and start to consider it as a career, it's like, no. And then I also I also noticed a lot of other themes of like not just my creative expression being suppressed, but also just my ability to express myself being suppressed. I had, from 10 to 15, I had some incidents with friends where like I had like, I don't know, like an opinion or something, but then like my friends would basically call me out for having this opinion and then like essentially just tell me I'm wrong, and like, but like to a degree where it was like I felt embarrassed. And then so I had some stuff like that. I had incidents where like, and even getting a little older, like I remember I ran for class president, I ran for phi-sci president, and like I remember it just being really awkward, and like I was legitimately trying my best, but then I remember somebody even like made a comment one time after I said something. They were like, weird flex, but okay. And like, I don't know, I just remember it being very like awkward, and I just felt very embarrassed, and like people were like laughing at me for trying. So I think I just learned like not to try. Or like having friends in school, and like just trying to connect with people, or just like having friends who like I was trying to make friends with them, but then this one group of kids or whatever would like essentially like talk about their weekend plans in front of me, and like I was not included. And so I don't know, I think I've spent a lot of time feeling like nobody cared about me, or like not that they just didn't care, but also that like I wasn't wanted, like stuff like that. Anyways, so I did a lot of that and wrote down all my monsters, and then they also had us do the same thing but the opposite, and write out your champions, your creative champions, which as I was doing mine, I'm like, I feel like I don't have that many. But I do remember, so when I was like 10 to 15, like in that range, I guess, I had one art teacher in I think like 7th and 8th grade, who, his name was Mr. Chassie, but he like, I just remember he like always thought I was like really talented, and he told me that, and then like he like loved everything I did, and like for one of our assignments we had to create this like 3D painting almost, and like I remember he gave me his favorite painting to do, which was like kind of like a nice like gesture. And then he also like recommended me for AP art like early, essentially, because at my school we weren't allowed to take AP art until our or AP classes until our junior year, but he recommended me take it as a freshman because I think he saw that I had some sort of talent, and like he's just like definitely one of the people that like really made me feel like my dreams could be possible, like if I wanted to do something like that. And then I also wrote down one of my ex-boyfriend's moms, Miss Leah, was like, she was just always like super sweet and like supportive of like everything I did, and like I just remember like like even when like I would do something embarrassing, like she never made me feel like I shouldn't have done that or said that. She was actually, and like I remember, this is not related to art, but it's just like feeling accepted, like very fully accepted and safe with somebody. But I remember I like accidentally got my period or whatever when I was like at their house one time, and like I think I like, it was embarrassing, but like I think I like bled through my shorts or something, and it like, but she helped me and like had extra pads or tampons or whatever, and like just gave it to me and was like so like loving and kind. And I remember she like gave me like a sweater to like wrap around my waist or whatever, and she just always was like so supportive and loving. And I feel like, not that my parents were not loving, but I just I don't know. They were very loving, but it's just hard. Whenever, like, there's so many feelings mixed up. And those are kind of the two creative champions I feel like I had who, like, really supported my authentic expression or my creative expression. And then more recently, I've definitely found, so Reagan Powers, obviously my mentor, has been cheering me on and is definitely, like, inspiring to me, and has just been helping, like, my inner child feel more safe in her expression. Danielle Bird, same thing, like, just helping me feel fully accepted and safe and validated, especially. And then I also wanted to mention Autumn Brienne, just for, like, the mentorship space I was in with her, and, like, she really speaks. I love her work because she doesn't speak to, like, the wounded person. She speaks to who she knows you are on the inside, which is, like, the woman who believes in herself and knows everything is possible. And so I feel like she really has inspired me to be my best self. And then, yeah, so that's kind of all the creative champions I feel like I had. We also had an assignment where we were listing, like, 5 imaginary lives, and so I actually did 6. And also I was just having fun with this. It was saying the whole point of this is, like, to have fun. If you had 5 other lives to lead, what would you do in each of them? And just write down whatever occurs to you. Do not overthink this exercise. The point of these lives is to have fun, more fun than you might be having in this life. Look over your list and select one. Oh, I didn't do this part, but it says look over your list and select one, then do it this week. For instance, if you put down country singer, can you pick a guitar? Like, it's like do something related. And so my alternate lives that I picked was the first one I thought of was, like, to be, like, either, like, and these are also, like, make-believe, like, they're not, like, real things, but I don't know. I was like, I would be, like, a witch or a priestess on a remote tropical island, brazen and disorganized, messy, raw, hot-headed, sure-footed, wise, fierce. And, like, the image I always have in my head is Calypso from Pirates of the Caribbean. She is, like, so cool, and I love her. But I feel like I wish I could be her. And if I had an alternate life, I would be her. The second one I had was a famous singer / pop star / rapper or performer, to the likes of Charlie XCX, Doechii, or Doja Cat. Just, like, stunning on red carpets, unashamed, confident to a fault, prancing around, hot and she knows it, almost, like, dark feminine. And I also wrote down, like, boy killer as an essence. And then I wrote down famous painter or artist. And I always have this dream of, like, having my own museum exhibition one day and, like, attending it and having, like, a special showcase type of thing, and, like, selling my art, like, making art pieces and, like, selling them to the rich and famous, and just, like, making money for, like, my art, and people knowing my name, like, people who are like, oh, that's a Andy Warhol or whatever, that's a O'Keeffe, and then mine would be like, that's a bear. And then the next one I had was being a burlesque dancer or pole dancer or circus artist of some sort, or contortionist, performing, being dramatic, like anything from, like, silly and playful or cheeky to, like, sexy and, like, dark and mysterious. And, like, I don't know, I always remember being young and, like, seeing, like, sometimes, like, circus acts, or, like, the people who do lyra on the hoops, or just, like, contortionists, and being like, oh my god, like, they're, like, so, like that. It would just, like, inspire the sense of awe of, like, wow, like, you can do, like, anything, and, like, they're so cool and, like, beautiful. And I just, like, kind of always thought that would be cool to do. And then I also wrote down medieval potion seller, or, like, essentially, like, a shopkeeper, or, like, I've always said that, like, I love making things, or, like, collecting objects, and, like I wrote, collects old, lost, enchanted things and sells them to weary travelers, or, like, selling my wares, essentially, which, like, actually, I used to have this business where I made, like, faux fur animal ears on, like, Instagram, but there was, like, only ever one time where I actually had like a physical shop, like at an event, or like a vendor. I was a vendor basically, and I sold stuff, but it was like so fun. And it was always so fun to like see people, and like they would like find the thing that they like and like try it on and be like, oh my gosh, I like this, and then I would make like $90. But I kind of like have always loved making stuff, and so I'm like, maybe in another life I would like sell my wares to people. And then I also wrote down jewelry designer, so like creating like custom pieces for people. And like I love gold, so I feel like I would like pretty much exclusively work with gold, and like I would like be attending in-person consultations and have like this like notebook and like drawing designs for people, and like maybe designing like engagement rings, or just like really intricate like beautiful engraving, like stuff that I feel like is kind of a lost art these days. Like I feel like maybe I would enjoy doing something like that. So that was fun to kind of explore. And then the last task that I did was to write a letter to your monsters, basically, which I chose to do the monsters because I feel like I mean, I could have wrote a letter to my champions too, which was also another one, but I just felt like I wanted to do the monsters one. And like in my letter, I was kind of saying like my initial reaction to all the monsters is to just be like, fuck y'all, you guys, like, and just like tell them why they were wrong, and like how much they hurt me, and like especially the ones who like I felt like were laughing at me. But then I kind of started talking about how like, but I also know deep down that they must have been hurting too, and like the only reason any of them probably ever hurt me was because I did something to make them look at themselves, or like look at a part of themselves that they didn't like. And so I just like made them think a little bit too hard about whatever they were feeling that they didn't want to feel. And so then they like lashed out at me. So I, for example, I put, I made you think a little too hard about how you didn't have an identity, so you lashed out about mine. I made you feel like you failed, so you blamed me and hurt me instead. I tried something earnestly and gave it my all when maybe you were too uncomfortable to do that, so you made fun of me. And you feared who I might become, so you shoved me into a box and forced me to stay there. Feared anything other, so you told me I was wrong. Felt threatened by my success, so you framed me or like beat me down. And maybe you felt scared to open up, so you left me out. And I basically just said that like maybe it was just never about me, and like maybe all these things I've felt about like basically like ragging on myself, like feeling like I have like no self-worth or whatever, just basically saying that like kind of. And then at the end of the letter I said like thank you, because like because of all of this I feel like it's caused me to like do all of this like deeper inner work and like delve more into myself. And so like, and like also I wouldn't be where I am without like all these things that like happened to me that like made me feel worthless essentially. So, and I probably wouldn't be like, I wouldn't have been friends with the people I was friends with, and wouldn't have found Autumn, and wouldn't have started looking at her content and attending her retreat, and then meeting all these other people, and creating my own videos. And you know, the whole Sacred Flow series was born from this place of like just me not feeling like I'm able to express myself. And so like, yeah, I was just essentially saying like thank you, because like I know who I am now, even though even as I say that I'm like, I feel like I don't know who I am, but like I think I do know who I am deep down. But like all this stuff that's happened in the past has just like confused me, because like I've just been hiding for so long because I felt like I wasn't wanted. But now that I've gotten to know myself better, my light can continually shine brighter and brighter like every day, and like every day I'm like learning something new about myself and like discovering new things. So yeah, I was just talking about that. So that was kind of long, but that was my first week. I feel like it was enlightening. Yeah, I don't want to let the doubts get to me, because I feel like this is all like really good inner work, and I'm glad that I'm doing it. But anywho, so that was my experience. As you can tell, I'm a crier. So but it's fine. Next week is going to be about recovering a sense of identity, and it says this week 2 is going to address self-definition as a major component of creative recovery. You may find yourself drawing new boundaries and staking out new territories as your personal needs, desires, and interests announce themselves. The essays and tools are aimed at moving you into your personal identity, a self-defined you. So that should be interesting. Yeah, I'm gonna like continue working with my affirmations and everything in the morning, because I really like them. But yeah, I'm excited for this next week. So yeah, I hope you guys have a good week. Thank you to anyone who's watching, and I'll see you at the end of week 2.